Yes, let's hear what you came up with. And let's go chronologically, because that seems logical. So who had the youngest, the 0 to 1? Ah, okay.
Lynn and I had 0 to 1, and we were a little nervous about 0 to 1 because we were trying to rack our brains about choices. What we came up with was for a positive choice would be to put 2 age-appropriate toys within the reach of the infant and let them sort of pick and choose what they wanted to play with, as long as we're okay with both of those choices going into it.
Absolutely. That's a great choice.
We were lucky. Do you want to do the inappropriate choice?
So we thought with the inappropriate choice was babies being placed in container after container after container. So starting in a car seat, going to a bumpy, going to maybe a high chair, so that we're not giving them that range of motion on the floor, so that tummy time is neglected and they don't have any choices when they're in their containers.
Perfect.
How's that, Jenny? Is that good?
Perfect. Let's go on to the next age group, 1 to 2. Ah.
One of the things that we talked about for this age group is that a lot of times it's mostly nonverbal. So sometimes it can be as simple as, do you want your bottle? And when the baby clearly expresses that he or she doesn't, that you take it away, you acknowledge it. I can see you don't want your bottle. We'll do something else. So we thought that would be a positive choice for a child.
Sure, whether or not to drink a bottle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but none of the whizzing the nipple
No.
back and forth and saying, oh, come on, you need to have it now.
Yeah, we would acknowledge the choice that clearly you don't want it now. And, hopefully later on that would be verbalized as they get older.
Good. And did you have an inappropriate choice?
But I don't remember what it was.
We talked about all the big things that you like bed, or we talked about milk versus water, or juice versus water, those kinds of little choices. And we did talk about different toys, but not a big choice like,
Do you want to go to bed?
Right, or that kind of thing.
Okay, great. Thank you. And who had, what would it be, 2 to 3? Okay.
So I love 2s and 3s. Anyway, and unfortunately, being the director of a child care center, they do have to line up a lot. So we were talking about an appropriate way to talk to them about that, and that it's a lot more fun to say, do you want to hop over to the line? Do you want to skip over to the line? Do you want to walk backwards? Do you want to jump? So it's giving them a choice, and it's kind of a fun choice.
And then the inappropriate one would be to say, Jenny, you go stand behind the door. Debbie, you go stand behind the door. Lacka, you go stand behind the door, and tell each child where and when that they had to line up, because that's directing them. It's not giving them the opportunity to want to go out and get onto the playground, and they have to wait very long, and people forget that toddlers don't like to wait. So if you're the first one called, waiting for that 12th one to be called, and then you hear Johnny, who's in the front of the line, stand still and wait for Michael, it's just not possible for toddlers.
Now we have 4 to 5.
So 4 to 5, we made the choice of, I'm trying to recall the cleanup, where with the different centers in the room, we have a child in the 3 or 4 children in housekeeping, several in block center, and they're all grumbling that they don't want to start putting things away, so it's time for lunch. Instead, we make it more of a contest, or more of making it fun and encouraging them to, let's see which center can be the first to clean up and come over and read a story prior to lunch.
Okay.
And then for the...
and we talked about not asking if they would like to, do you want to wash your hands? Or more things that aren't really a choice, just kind of, okay, now it's time to wash your hands, or now we have to go to the bathroom, instead of saying, oh, do you want to do this, or do you want to do that? Because it's more likely to be no.
Yes, yes, I know
So
exactly
really
what you mean.
Giving
yes.
the opportunity to say no, just
yes.
saying, okay, let's do this.
Yes, so don't offer a choice unless you can accept the child's decision. Right. Whichever way it goes, just restrict yourself. If you have peanut butter and jelly and grilled cheese sandwiches on tap for lunch, don't say, what would you like for lunch? Because there are no other choices. And yet we do it all the time. I find myself doing it when I don't know a child very well. I think somehow in me it seems more polite. It's not, and I know that, but I sort of find myself leaning to say, would you like, or shall we? And that awful thing we all do of, let's go outside now, okay? You know, this adding, okay, to every sentence. Why do we do that? Maybe we could all go out of here with the okay zipped inside. Okay. Next.
We had 6 and 7-year-olds.
Mm-hmm.
And so we thought an appropriate choice would be that they might have some homework from school, and so we might say, would you like to do your reading or your math first?
But not would you like to do your homework?
Right. Okay, because that isn't a choice.
Inappropriate was, would you like to do your homework?
Oh.
Brush your teeth, okay, those kinds of things. So those would be inappropriate, where you just offer them and you know they have to do whatever it is that you want them to do it. So that's what we thought of.
That's great. And we haven't talked very much about the tone we use with children, but that's terribly important, isn't it? If you say something with conviction, it's much easier for them to accept it than if you sound wishy-washy about, well, would you like to play checkers or would you rather have dominoes? Those are two legitimate choices, but I don't sound very interested in either of them. Yeah, okay. And 8-year-olds. Yes.
In my program, a lot of times my 8-year-olds, I give them the choice of, would you like to stay inside and make something, but it's really nice outside, or would you like to play outside today? So this way they're getting a choice of what they want to do inside or outside. An appropriate choice, I really couldn't think of anything. I drew a blank.
For 8-year-olds.
For 8-year-olds, yeah. Because 8-year-olds are, you more or less have to tell them, like, okay, if we're going to line up, we need to line up now. You know, you can't really give them a choice of to line up or not to line up, because then they're not going to want to line up.
Well, let's try to help. Let's think of some inappropriate choices for 8-year-olds.
I think, Jenny, it has to do with what you said earlier about if you're going to give them a choice, it has to be a legitimate choice. You can't give them a choice that you're not going to be able to provide them with. And I also, I think, you know, a good program is offering children choices throughout the entire day, so that they are making choices that are good for them. And you're always going to have that child or two who's like, doesn't matter if you have elephants dancing around. They're not going to be happy with that. But I think if you know in your heart of hearts that you've provided them choices that are going to provide the, you know, help support overall development for children, then you've done your job. And eventually, I think if we model that things are fun and exciting, and we maybe sit down and do the game with them or do the activity with them, very often you're going to find that child is going to follow your lead. I didn't really answer your question, Jenny.
No.
I'm sorry.
That was a great response.
I have an idea for inappropriate for an 8-year-old would be, what do you want to do?
Yes.
Without too open-ended.
Too open.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know.
Exactly, or they'll want to do some sort of media.
Yes, yes. What about saying something like, do you want to wear your mittens out in the snow, or do you want to go with bare hands for an 8-year-old? Is that appropriate or inappropriate? Inappropriate. Anybody?
I'll push back on that a little
Okay.
So I would say that would then fall into a natural and logical consequence. So if you give them the choice, I had a son who he ran hot. So I gave up that fight a long time ago if he had to wear a coat or didn't have to wear a coat. So if the child says, you know, I'm going to go without my mittens, okay, I'm going to monitor it, and they're going to get cold, but that's going to be fine. They're not going to get frostbite, but they're just going to get cold.
At 8.
At 8.
At 8,
Yes,
but
at
not
8.
at 4, perhaps.
No,
Okay.
but for our older
Okay.
school age.
So we're looking at age-appropriate choices, too. Okay. Good points, yes.
I wonder what you think about an 8-year-old and appreciating their decision to not choose anything.
Well, that triggers all kinds of thoughts in my mind, and one of them is, what about the child who says, I'm bored, this is boring, and doesn't choose anything? Do we jump in and say, well, here are the magic markers, and here's the game that you enjoyed, yet no, I don't want to do anything. What would you do? I'd let them stew.
That's what I was thinking too. And
Would
then,
you?
then I would check back with them and say, you know, I see you chose to do nothing. Do you still want to do that? Or is there something else you might like to do now? And then the choices that are appropriate.